Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today we're going to make this old man figure, and you can call him whoever you want. If you want to call him Father Winter, Noel, Santa Claus, Kris Kringle. You can make him an old man. Well, he is an old man, but you can turn him into, say, Moses with a staff. You can also turn him into a wizard with a magic wand. So whatever you put into his hand, you can turn. It can change the character of who he is. So it's not necessarily a Kris Kringle or a Father Winter. It's whoever you want it to be. But we're using the basic collaging and painting steps to create this older gentleman. The first step is to create the cloak or the jacket. And you want to determine what color you want the figure to be. If you're going to do a fisherman, you might want to have a rain slicker on, so you might want some yellow, or if you want a red rain slicker, depending on whatever color you want. I'm going to be making a wizard, so I'm going to be using the blue family. So I picked up some scraps from my scrap bucket, and what we do is we just take old scrap paper or old artwork, tablecloths that we've used, paper tablecloths that we've painted on, and then I just tear it into strips like this, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches wide, depending on how big your paper is. And then we're going to go ahead and just find the center of our paper here. So you want to find the top, bottom, and the very center. And at the center point, we're going to run a line of glue as wide as we want our figure to be. And basically, this is a 12 by 18 piece of paper, so I make one as wide as my hand. So in the very middle, I make a line of glue as wide as my hand. Now I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to make it a rectangle, and I'm going to leave about 3 or 4 fingers from the bottom, and I'm going to make another line, and I'm just going to connect it together, and then I'm going to fill in the middle just with some zigzags of glue. Now I'm also going to draw a line, and I'm going to make this half the length of my rectangle, and if you want to tilt it outward, you can. And this is going to be for the arms. And if you want your arm bent, let me show you this little elf I made here. This is a bent example. If you want it bent, then you're going to make it 1/4 of the length of this, okay? And just have it bent up. So the arms aren't as long as the cloak. They're about halfway, and then this one bends up. For this one, I'm going to make it a wizard, so I'll make him bent as well. So you see the example of how to do a bent arm. So if you want it bent, you want to do a V shape, down and up, like that. You just want to make sure the arms are in correct proportion of the body. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill in my the arms. You can do the arms or this rectangle first. Maybe I'll do the rectangle first. I think that's what I'll do. I'm going to take this piece, and I'm just going to tear it at the bottom, and I'm going to tear it down the middle. If you go with the grain of the fabric, it tears nicely. And I'm going to put that in the center. And these are cloaks of many colors. You can make it a patchwork if you want to do smaller pieces like this, or like you said, longer strips here. And it doesn't have to be all the same family, you know, this just makes it more interesting. And then I'm going to put a shorter one on this side. So any way you'd like to fill up your area, and it does not have to be perfect. This is my rectangle. It's close to a rectangle. It's not perfect, but it's fine. And if you want to add some other bits of color, I'm just going to stick this in here. And now I need 2 arms. If it's too thick, just tear it. And my arm is going to come, you want it to come up a little bit above the jacket here for the arm, because it comes off the shoulders. And I'm going to tear it at the elbow, and then I'm going to bend it up like that. That way my wizard can hold like a staff or a magic wand. And here's my other side. This may be, yeah, that's fine. That'll be big enough. I'm gonna get a little bit more glue over here. And the edges don't have to be perfect because we're gonna be painting around this. I may make this a little bit longer because I want his cloak to be, I'll add some of this blue at the bottom. I want his cloak to be pretty long. I don't want to have a lot of the legs showing. Let me show you on this little elf. And then here's the Santa, like the Santa too. There for the shoes. So I am going to extend it a little bit longer, just making sure I have a little bit of room for the, I'm going to tear this. A little bit of room for the, excuse me, the shoes. Just going to add a little bit more glue at the bottom. And then when you're happy with the way you've done the cloak, you can go ahead and start gluing the hat. I'm going to come up about 3 fingers from, or down 3 fingers, 3 to 4 fingers from here. I'm going to measure with a bottle of glue and make a brim. And then I'm going to attach my hat. And I want this to be a not a rectangle, but a triangular hat. This might work as a good wizard hat. So I'm just going to tear the piece down to form a pointed triangle. My paint's a little bit wet here. Okay, and then I'm going to cut it off here. And that'll work as the hat. And I don't want a brim. I'm going to show you one here for the wizard hat. But for the elf hat, I had a brim. So then I glued on a skinny piece like that. But for the wizard hat, maybe I'll put a little bit on the bottom. I'm going to add some glue right here to the center. Glue on my hat, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit, just to give a little bit of color at the bottom. I think that'll look fine. There. Now, the next step is to go ahead and paint in the face. And you can see it's very loosely done. Okay. Right there. For the face, I'm just going to take a light peach color, and I'm using tempera paint, and I'm going to come right underneath the brim. Just paint it smooth, and I'm going to leave room for my beard. So I'm just going to come down and around and fill it in with a nice, pretty even, thick coat of paint. I'm not watering down this paint too much. Actually, I've barely watered it down. There, so it gives a nice even coverage. If you want to have gloves on, you can. For this wizard, I'm going to do the skin color, but you can see here on the elf, I did a little glove color, and I also have a little mitten on this Santa figure here. So you're going to decide the color and then go ahead and do that. So at this time, if you wanted blue gloves, you could do blue. I'm just taking my brush and pressing, and then bringing it to the cuff of the shirt. I'm just starting here, and then I'm going to press. This hand will just be resting by its side, so press and pull to the cuff of the shirt. And his hand is just grouped together like that, and then I'll add a wand coming out this one after. I'm going to let that dry a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add his beard. And let me bring this in closer so you can see as I'm doing the face. What I do for the beard is I just take some of the white tempera paint, and I'm just kind of patting it on here. It's going to come around his head. If you want a little bit under here, you can. Maybe just on the sides. I'm going to do mine like gray hair, and then I come down the side of his face, just kind of patting the thick white tempera. And then you can even have it come right on top of the collage here. That's why we have the arms come up a little bit. So it comes, his shoulder forms the shoulders. And if you want a really long beard, you decide the length of it, or if you want it rounded or pointy, that's up to you. I'm just finishing up on this side, like that. If you want to make it a curly Q down here, you can do that. Now, what I did was I took, on the Santas, I took a little bit of black, and on the elf, and I traced the edges just to bring it out so we can see from the white paper. You can do that. Or because this is a wizard, I'm going to go ahead and do this in a dark blue value. And I'm just adding a few bits of line. And what I've done is I've dipped my brush barely into the paint. And then I'm going to wipe so that I have a nice point. I don't want to add a lot of color to this. And I'm just doing light C shapes, barely scratching through here, just to give the illusion of like shadow. And I'm going to take a little bit more paint now, wipe most of it off. And you don't have to do a complete outline, just a few areas that show. And on this side, shadow. I'm doing kind of backwards C strokes or curvy outline. See how I do the C stroke here? And you can do the backwards C strokes on this side to outline and give detail to the beard. You can do a little bit on the inside if you'd like. Right in here, or any other detail to the hair. I'm not going to do too much. Let me wipe my brush down and just hit this with a dry brush to blend. So I've wiped my brush. I'm just going over it with a dry brush, maybe a little bit more white. If you muddy it up a little bit too much, just hit some white. And then when you're satisfied with the beard, I'm going to pull this off the face a little bit. That's too much into the face. You can always pull it with your finger or a towel and repaint it with the peach. There. I want him to have a little bit rounder face. And I'm going to let that dry and give some more white up in this edge. So when you're happy with the beard, then you can go ahead and start outlining the cloak, and you want to use the same color. That's up to you if you want to use the same color family. Like this one I outlined with the red, and I like the way that blended. For the elf, what I was trying to do is have like black mink cuffs, and then I just outlined the rest with the black line. So it's up to you what color you want to outline it with. I'm going to just draw in details and lines. If you want to add wrinkles in the fabric, you can for detail. I'm going to do it with a dark blue shade coming down, and this just gives some definition. And I like layering paint on top of collage. You can even add more pattern if you want. I'm going to just fill some dots in over in here on this little rectangle. I'm going to add a little rectangle here too and give some pattern. Any detail you want now, add with your paint. If you want to add little gold stripe, gold things to it. I want to have the cuff a little bit wider on the wizard. Let's see if we can get the whole picture. Right there. And I'm just tracing some of my edges. And you don't have to conform to the shape of the torn paper. You can make it up yourself like I did here. Give him a little pointier elbow. You know, you can flare out your cuffs if you'd like. You can even add detail on the cuffs. You know, do some sewing stitches or pattern. You can do other colors, not just the same color. And then I'm going to add a little bit of detail up here to the hat as well. This just cleans up my edges. If you want to paint moons and stars, since this is a wizard. And now I'm going to do some boots or shoes. I'm going to do a number 1 down and a number 1 down. Let's make sure it's in the picture. And then I'm going to do a diagonal and a diagonal. And I want this, since it's a wizard, I'm going to give some curl on the end of his boot. And I made it a little bit exaggerated in length right here. So you can design your boot the way you want. I'm going to give a little heel. So I come out for the heel. And then a backwards letter C. I thicken this. Come back. Just define the top. And for the little elf, what I did was I added little pom-poms on the end. Right here. And then the next step is to go ahead and add facial features. For the facial features, you can do a little U shape and a little line for the nose and mouth. And you can paint in, if you'd like, little circles and with black, and then do your own eyes or put color in the eyes. It's up to you how you want to decorate it. After we do little black circles, then I stick on these little eyeball stickers. If you're at home and don't have them, I order them through like a Saks art catalog or NASCO, or Dick Blick has them, I believe. They're called Wiggle eyeball stickers. But they're $9 for like a roll of a ton of them. But if you don't have them, just make up your own eyes. And if you're going to do the eyes, I'll show you on the wizard how to do the eye details. You always start with the eye color first. And I go ahead and I just paint in, put a dot where you think you want your eye and a dot where you think you want the other eye, just so that you know they're equal distance apart. And then make it a little bit bigger for the iris. The color of your eye is called the iris. And then, if you let that dry while you're working on the little nose and mouth. Now, some of you like to have the mouth in the beard, so that you have a little mustache here. And then this one is on the elf, the mouth is above the beard. So that's up to you. If you want to add a little mustache in here, let's do that one, because I don't have that one as an example. You can do it directly underneath where the nose would be. So I'm going to just take some white paint and carefully lay down a little wizard mustache. And you can curl your mustache. That's what's fun about being an artist. You can curl it any way you want and design it. You can curl it up in curly cues or just have it hanging down, which I'm going to just have hanging down. And I'm using a really tiny brush for this detail work. You always want to use the right brush for the right job. There. And that'll give, and then let me give a little bit of some shadow. Oh, that's too much paint, so I'm going to wipe it off. I just want a little bit of shadow detail on the inside. There. And I just want barely any paint. I'm dipping into the blue and then barely wiping off. Whoops, I whipped off too much. Just a little bit at the bottom. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a mouth. I'm just going to do this detail in black. So I'm just going to do a little line here. There. And then for the nose, you can design it. If you want a side view nose, the U shape, I'm just going to come down like a side view and make it like an L shape, but I curve out my L first and then I'm coming over. I want to have almost no black on it. I twirl it. See how I twirl that to have a nice point. I do a point over, and then I'm just doing a curve for backwards letter C. Now I'm going to do a little tiny line on the top of this. I'm going to rest my hand here where it's not paint, where there is no paint, and I'm going to do a curve, barely touching the paper. I don't press. Now look, that's too thick. That paint would make too big of a line, so I have to twirl my paint. You can do it on the side of your dish or in a napkin. And I'm doing a slight curve on the top. This is detailed eyes. So if you want to do simple eyes, just do it simple with a U, or if you want to get detailed like my wizard, you can get a little bit more detailed. And now the fun part, you can design your background. Here I did just wind blowing, and so what I did was I did white paint first in blowing swirls, and then I took barely any light blue on my brush and swirled it in. Then of course I painted the branch and a little bit of a bird, and here I did the same thing, the wind swirls or magic swirls from the elf. He's giving off some magic, and so I did some glitter glue sparkle on top of the magic here. But it's up to you how you want to do it. For the wizard, I am going to do some yellow and white little swirls and stars. So he'll have white first, swirls. So I do a giant circle, and then I continue inside the circle, and I'm going to do a lot of them all over the page first. And then I'm going to go ahead and highlight those with a little bit of yellow. So I'm going to dip into the yellow and have a little bit of yellow on my brush and go right on top of this, just to give a little bit of yellow magic swirls, like magic swirls or stars, or the stars glowing in the sky. I go right on top of my wet yellow. And this is just quickly done. You don't have to be so perfect, just little light. And having the white first lightens the yellow, so it's not so bright. You can do lines in between here if you'd like. Now you can paint stars on or use star stickers. That would be fun to do, is star stickers all over here, those little mini gold stars. So you can embellish and decorate your wizard the way you would like, and have fun creating your collage. I'm going to put a little bit of, maybe a little rose of yellow down here, but have fun creating your collage with many colors. And I do want to have, I'm going to have like a little necklace or something, like a gold amulet or something too. So like I said, you can detail this, because a lot of times wizards have these really cool fancy necklaces. And the more details you put on, the more interesting your picture is going to be. And then I'm going to take actually I'll just use silver, so it'll be a silver amulet or pendant, because I've got the silver glitter glue here, right there, to give him a little bit of magic. And then I'm going to let that dry, and my wizard will be done. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments how your collage came out.